A young woman sits on a chair in front of a police officer. She looks exhausted, drained, and defeated. Police officer: Miss, I understand that you've been scammed out of your money, but unfortunately, you're not the only victim. This scheme has affected many people. Young woman: But when will I get my money back? I have nowhere else to go. Police officer: The investigation is ongoing. We'll inform you if there's any progress. She slowly stands up and leaves the station, staring at her phone with empty eyes. She stands outside the police station, replaying the past few moments in her head. Young woman, muttering to herself, how did this even happen to me? She lifts her phone and dials a friend. Young woman, on the phone. There are so many victims, not just me. Friend on the other end. What? Have you filed a case? Where are you now? Young woman, I'm in front of the police station. What should I do? I feel so stupid. Friend, come over to my place. At the very least, let me buy you a meal so we can talk. She stands in front of the station, gripping her phone tightly. The night air is cold, and the distant sound of cars passing by fills the silence. Her voice trembles slightly. Young woman, are you really sure it's okay for me to come over? I really appreciate this. I'm sorry, I keep depending on you. A short pause. Her eyes glisten with unshed tears, her face flushed with emotion. She tries to hold it together but is on the verge of breaking down. Friend, on the phone. Hey, don't apologize. It's nothing. But what about work tomorrow? Should I talk to the team leader for you? Quickly, nervously. No, I'll handle it myself. Thank you. She hangs up, staring at her phone before sighing deeply. She starts walking slowly, lost in thought, thinking. Of course, things would be easier if Hyunwoo spoke up. He's the CEO of the company, after all. She walks down the quiet street, her head lowered. Her mind drifts, not to her own past, but to his. A memory surfaces, Hyunwoo, in his early 20s, stepping off a plane in the US, eyes filled with determination. Years ago, Hyunwoo moved to America. With his older brother and a few colleagues, they developed a game that became a global sensation. Now he's a famous developer, managing the game development division at. She looks down at her phone while walking, her mind still trapped in memories. He's been my childhood friend for 15 years. Compared to him, I'm just a regular employee who barely started working. She remembers when she first joined the company and carelessly mentioned knowing Hyunwoo. The rumors had spread like wildfire. Since then she had been careful. Suddenly her worn-out slipper slips off and she stumbles, falling onto the pavement, muttering to herself, I really need to throw away these cheap slippers. She looks up from the ground and sees a sleek, expensive car parked nearby. The owner steps out, a tall man in an elegant suit, his strikingly handsome features almost sculpted. He looks down at her with a neutral expression. Man. Puppy? She blinks in confusion. Man, are you really walking your puppy without a leash? That's dangerous. Still puzzled, pointing at her lost slipper. Are you talking about my slipper? The man follows the direction of her finger, hesitating for a moment. Man, thinking. Who names their dog Slipper? But then he spots the slipper on the ground and frowns, irritated. He bends down, picks it up. You don't have to pick it up for me. Before she can finish, he casually tosses it toward a nearby trash bin, but misses. Stunned. What? Man, expression unchanging. It was blocking the way. It just happened to land near the trash can. Man, straightens his suit. Be more careful in the future. It could lead to an accident, don't you think? She just stares at him, dumbfounded. Young woman, thinking. No. It was your ridiculous misunderstanding that made you stop your car in the first place. Is everything just about looking good for you? She squints, suddenly feeling like she's seen him somewhere before. Wait a minute. Have we met before? He chuckles, a small smirk appearing on his lips. Man. If that's your flirting line, it's a bit
Cliché, don't you think? She gapes at him, utterly confused. He turns away, heading back to his car. Man, I don't have time for pointless small talk. Have a good night. She watches as he drives away, frustration boiling inside her, thinking, did he seriously think I was flirting with him? Still fuming, she gets on a bus, staring at her destroyed puppy slipper, and thinking, how can someone be so rude? Just because he's rich, he thinks he can treat people like that? She sighs, thinking, well, I can't deny I envy his wealth right now. She arrives at a large house and knocks on the door, mumbling to herself, muttering, why does a single person need a house this big? The door opens. She starts to call for Hyunwoo but freezes in shock. Standing in front of her is the rude stranger from earlier. Both of them stare at each other, equally bewildered. Man, are you a stalker? Offended, still trying to process the situation. Excuse me? Man, calmly. Well, who else would be a stalker here besides you, coming all the way to someone's house like this? Is this about what happened earlier? No, I should be the one asking you. Before she can finish, another voice comes from behind him. Hyunwoo. Bro, why are you just standing there? Wait, isn't that Yoon-seo? The man in the doorway stays silent, grinning. It's freezing outside. Come in. Yoon-seo stands at the doorstep, her mind spinning in chaos. Then realization hits her like a wave. Whispers in shock, Jungwoo?
Hyunwoo and Yoon-seo have been friends since childhood and are the same age. They became close in elementary school and have stuck together ever since. This year marks their 15th year of friendship. Time sure flies quickly. Hyunwoo was popular from a young age, and he had an older brother who was just as well known. However, popularity and good manners don't always go hand in hand. Congratulations on your graduation, 223, Yoon-seo heard from behind her. She turned around and saw Jungwoo. Thank you, but why 223? She asked, confused. In the second semester of the final exam, out of 247 third-year students, the one who ranked 223 left this at my house. If you were trying to surprise me, you succeeded. It's such an unusual number that I think I'll remember it for a long time. She blushed, feeling a mix of emotions. Even back then, he was tall and handsome. Other girls referred to him as the perfect human. But to her, he was just someone who couldn't even remember other people's names. To be honest, he was quite annoying. Now in the present, they sat at the table, two brothers in front of a girl whose world had just turned upside down. It's been almost 10 years, right? Go on, say hi. Hyunwoo nudged. Heh. Hello, Yoon-seo said awkwardly. The situation felt a bit weird, but now she understood why he had looked so familiar. He hadn't changed at all, still as tall and handsome as ever. It's been a while, 223, Jungwoo said in a calm voice. Well, at least you're not a stalker, so that's a relief. Hyunwoo, not understanding the situation, kept switching his gaze between them. So, Hyunwoo, you want this kid to stay here for a while? Jungwoo asked his brother. Yoon-seo, still trying to grasp what was happening, blinked in confusion. Are you saying I'll be staying here? Hyunwoo, that's a bit... A firm voice suddenly echoed through the space. I'm against it. I get extremely uncomfortable when someone invades my personal space. She didn't know what to say or do in that situation. Jungwoo was already throwing out alternatives like lending her money, which was out of the question. It's okay. I'll figure something out on my own. Thanks for at least offering, Hyunwoo, she said. The two brothers glared at each other. Yoon-seo starts work tomorrow and there's nowhere suitable for her to stay, Hyunwoo said firmly. Jungwoo turned to Yoon-seo. Get a grip. How far are you planning to take responsibility for her? Are you her mom? Jungwoo didn't trust her. Yes, she was his old schoolmate, but those times were long gone. She came to you instead of her parents, knowing full well that you're wealthy. Doesn't that seem suspicious to you? Yoon-seo was taken aback. I guess Hyunwoo didn't tell you. Well, it makes sense. You were abroad in America when my parents had a car accident while traveling. And just as you said, he cannot take responsibility. I got scammed, not him. I have no intention of being a burden because of this. I just wanted to see a friend's face in difficult times, that's all. So I'd appreciate it if you refrained from saying things like that. Silence filled the room as they stared at each other. Later, Yoon-seo and Hyunwoo stood on the rooftop terrace. He was apologizing for his brother's behavior. Even for Hyunwoo, it was strange that Jungwoo was being so sensitive. For Yoonseo, however, it was understandable. He probably felt uncomfortable. Anyway, Yoonseo, look closely. I cleaned up here today so it's tidy. It might be annoying to go up and down the stairs, but there's a separate bathroom so you can use it just for yourself, Hyunwoo said, still trying to convince her to stay. I know it's an incredibly generous offer, given the situation, but I can't repay this. No matter how close we are, this just feels like too much, she admitted, feeling guilty. Hyunwoo reminded her of their middle school days when he had struggled alone, on the verge of going down the wrong path. She had stuck by him even when he was annoying and had looked out for him. He had been grateful for her support back then and had made a promise to himself that he would repay her someday. But when her parents passed away in high school, she hadn't said anything. She hadn't wanted to burden him, knowing he had exams coming up. What she didn't know was how much guilt that had placed on him back then. Jungwoo was standing by the door, listening to their conversation. Until you find another place, I'll allow you to stay here. But I'll definitely charge you rent, he said. That irritated Yoonseo. Okay, I'll definitely pay it, she replied, making Hyunwoo smile, relieved that it had finally worked out. How is it that Jungwoo Appa hasn't changed at all? She muttered, annoyed. She already knew it was going to be difficult to get along with him. He's smart enough to remember my 3-digit ranking, so why the heck won't he use my name? Why should I be nice to someone like that? She grumbled. Watching the sunset over the city, Hyunwoo just stood there unable to answer. Well, don't worry about it. He's the landlord's brother. Even if he's not friendly, he won't pick a fight. Besides, I'll just avoid him as much as possible while I'm here, okay? She said with a smile. Well, that's what she thought. She had no idea what his real reason was for returning to the city. She found out the next day at the office, when Jungwoo walked in and introduced himself as the new head of the department. As Han Yoonseo was tying up her hair, she heard someone calling her name. Stepping out to the stairs, she asked Hyunwoo if it was him. He nodded and offered her a ride to work. She hesitated for a moment, wondering what would happen if someone saw them together. Rumors could easily spread within the company. Noticing her hesitation, Hyunwoo reassured her. If you're worried about rumors, I can drop you off near the office instead, he said with a knowing smile. Yoonseo couldn't help, but smiled back and agreed. On the way, Hyunwoo casually mentioned that his brother had left early that morning. A wave of relief washed over Yoonseo. At least she wouldn't have to run into him first thing in the morning. Last night, standing on the rooftop, Yoonseo and Hyunwoo watched the sun setting over the city. The warm hues painted the sky as they talked. How can someone stay exactly the same after 15 years? Yoonseo wondered aloud. I doubt he's ever had a proper relationship with that attitude. She reassured Hyunwoo, telling him there was no need to worry. She would avoid his brother as much as possible. Just then, a voice came from behind. Oh, you really think it's going to be that easy? Yoonseo froze. Turning around, she found herself face to face with Jungwoo. He hadn't left. Panic crept into her voice. How much did you hear? Jungwoo smirked. From the beginning? Without waiting for an answer, he leaned in slightly. Well, good luck avoiding me, he said, his voice dripping with amusement. The present back at the office, Yoonseo replayed last night's conversation in her head. She needed a solid plan to avoid Jungwoo at home. A strong, steady voice suddenly filled the office. As long as I'm here, I will strive to bring out the full potential of each individual. Yoonseo blinked in confusion. That voice, it sounded familiar. She turned her head and saw her coworkers whispering, their eyes fixed on the new director. He's really good-looking, isn't he? One of them gushed, and then it hit her. This was why Jungwoo had told her to try her best to avoid him. Snapped. Out of her thoughts, Yoonseo heard her colleague calling her name. You've been spacing out a lot. Did you finish moving in? You said you'd invite us over for a housewarming party. Yoonseo forced a smile and nodded. She had bragged about it so much last week, there was no way she could admit she had been scammed. Her colleague then brought up the new director. He's Hyunwoo's brother, right? Do you know him? Before Yoonseo could answer, the new director, Jungwoo, started walking toward them. She stiffened as her colleague introduced herself. Graphic designer Yoon Ji-young, nice to meet you. Jungwoo responded with a polite nod before his gaze landed on Eun-seo. Han Eun-seo, Hyunwoo's friend. Nice to meet you. Eun-seo felt her face heat up. She had no idea how to react. Ji-young, noticing her pale expression, raised an eyebrow. Did something happen between you two? Eun-seo quickly shook her head. I don't remember. But her mind was spinning. It was the first time Jungwoo had ever called her by her first name, and he had definitely heard everything she said last night. Called to his office later that day, while Eun-seo was at her desk, she was suddenly summoned to Jungwoo's office. She panicked. Had she done something wrong? As she walked through the office, whispers followed her. The rumors had already started. Stepping into the room, she saw Jungwoo sitting at his desk. Without a word, he lifted his hand slightly. Was he waving her over, or was he just messing with her? Annoyed, Eun-seo turned to leave, but Jungwoo's voice stopped her. Come here. Reluctantly, she approached his desk. You have a bit of a quirky side, he said casually. That only irritated her more, though she tried to hide it. But to her surprise, Jungwoo continued. I reviewed your work. It's quite good. Eun-seo blinked. Did he just compliment her? He then gave her a few detailed suggestions, and she had to admit, they were spot on. Despite it being his first day, he was already this sharp. She had expected him to summon her just to pick a fight, but his feedback was actually precise. Lost. In thought, she barely registered his next words. What do you think? Jungwoo asked. Huh? His expression didn't change. About the fact that someone you wanted to avoid at all costs is now your director. She had no words. He leaned back slightly. Matters of work can go through the team leader, but I wanted to hear your thoughts directly. His smirk deepened. Now that we'll be seeing each other at work and at home, are you still sure you can avoid me? Eun-seo's face burned with frustration and embarrassment. After work outside the office, Eun-seo stormed up to Hyunwoo. Why didn't you tell me your brother was becoming the division director? Hyunwoo grinned. Because if I did, you wouldn't have come to work? Eun-seo glared at him. You're the worst. He shrugged. Jungwoo wanted to be more involved in company matters because of upcoming projects and deadlines. Still fuming, she muttered a curse under her breath. Hyunwoo laughed. You know, he's right behind you. Eun-seo froze. Turning around slowly, she realized Hyunwoo was just messing with her. Her glare sharpened. Do that again, and it'll cost you your life. All she wanted now was to go home. But Hyunwoo wasn't done. Did you read the company news? He asked, still smirking. She frowned. No, why? Tonight is the company dinner to welcome the new director. Eun-seo froze again. Just when she thought she could finally escape him, she had to face Jungwoo again. The bar was buzzing with laughter and clinking glasses. Everyone seemed more cheerful than usual, the air thick with excitement and the bitter scent of beer. Eun-seo sat quietly, sipping her drink, her gaze drifting over her colleagues as they enjoyed themselves. This vibe is so different tonight, she thought, surprised at how lively the atmosphere was. It's definitely because of the new chairman, one of the girls giggled, leaning in with a sly grin. He's so good-looking. Honestly, he's got this whole cool and distant vibe going for him. They're brothers, but they couldn't be more different, another chimed in. Hyunwoo's warm and easygoing, but the director, he's cold, mysterious. Eun-seo shifted uncomfortably, trying to keep her expression neutral. She could feel the attention slowly turning toward her. Hey, Ji-young said, eyes narrowing mischievously. Didn't Director Jungwoo call you into his office the other day? One of the girls gasped. Seriously? Just because they're brothers doesn't mean you have to get close to him too, Eun-seo. He only gave me feedback on my work, Eun-seo replied quickly, waving it off. As Manager Lee said, them being brothers doesn't automatically mean, I know both of them. We're not close. Ji-young sighed in disappointment, clearly hoping for some juicy drama. Eun-seo's thoughts wandered. She remembered standing in Jungwoo's office, feeling the weight of his eyes on her, the cold tone of his words. She had told her colleagues nothing happened, but honestly, not talking to him at all might have been even better. Feeling the pressure from their prying eyes and teasing smiles, Yoonseo downed her drink a little too quickly. The alcohol hit harder than expected. And soon she found herself outside, leaning against the wall, her thoughts swirling. "That man is weird," she muttered under her breath, staring up at the night sky. Her mind drifted to high school, to another time when Jungwoo had acted strangely. But back then, just like now, no one cared. His looks seemed to excuse everything. As the cool night air sobered her up slightly, she sighed and tried to head back inside. But just as she took a step, her heel caught between the wooden boards of the deck. She stumbled and fell hard, cheeks burning with embarrassment. "Ugh, great," she grumbled, brushing herself off and walking back in, only to freeze as she saw Jungwoo standing there watching her. Later, Eun-seo sat on a bench, holding her head in her hands as the room spun around her. "Yoonseo, are you okay?" Hyunwoo's gentle voice cut through the haze. "I'm fine. I just need to rest for a bit," she replied weakly, waving him off. Hyunwoo looked worried, stepping closer, but in her drunken state, Yoonseo managed to elbow him in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him. "Oof, okay," he gasped, holding up his hands. Before he could try again, their colleagues dragged him away, pulling him into another round of drinks. From her corner, Yoonseo watched the crowd dance and laugh. Miss Ji-young and Manager Lee still have so much energy. "I'd love to go home, but I don't want to kill the mood," she thought, sighing. Suddenly, she felt a presence beside her. She turned her head slowly and blinked. Jungwoo was standing there. Without a word, he removed his coat and gently draped it over her lap. She stared at him, confused. "I don't need—" Then she noticed it. Her skirt, torn from the fall. Her face turned scarlet. "Thank you," she whispered. Jungwoo's brow furrowed. "Is it normal for you to have such poor self-control? A woman your age should know her limits." Her embarrassment turned to irritation. "That's none of your business. Whether I drink myself into oblivion or not, it has nothing to do with you." "What if something happened to you on the way home?" he shot back. "Would you know how to deal with it? Take better care of yourself." His words hit a nerve. Yoonseo's eyes narrowed. Fueled by alcohol and frustration, she grabbed him by the tie, pulling him closer until their faces were inches apart. "You are so annoying," she hissed into his ear. The room went silent. All eyes were on them, confused and intrigued. Hyunwoo stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Jungwoo didn't flinch. "Do you really enjoy bothering me?" Yoonseo leaned back slightly. "I admit I was wrong yesterday, but you weren't completely right either. Why are you always acting like some self-righteous prick?" Her eyes flicked over his face. "I get it. You're good-looking, so you think you can get away with anything." She suddenly placed a finger on his lips. "If you just stayed quiet like this, you'd be perfect." Jungwoo blinked, clearly flustered. "If I stay quiet and act like a gentleman, would that make me your type?" Yoonseo met his gaze, smirking. Maybe." Then her face twisted. Her stomach churned. "Oh no," she murmured, clamping her hand over her mouth. Ji-young's eyes widened. "Wait. Yoonseo, are you—" Too late. Before anyone could react, Yoonseo lurched forward, and Jungwoo's expensive suit bore the brunt of the aftermath. Yoonseo stirred, her head pounding and heavy as if bricks had been stacked inside her skull. Her eyes fluttered open, squinting at the unfamiliar ceiling above. Panic rose in her chest. "Where am I?" She sat up slowly, her vision swimming. Her clothes clung uncomfortably to her skin. The same outfit from yesterday. Her mind was a blank canvas, smeared only with fragments she couldn't piece together. Anxiety tightened in her chest. Did I black out? She scanned the room, clean, bright, and oddly homey. Then she heard a faint clatter from nearby. Cautiously, she stepped out of the room and followed the scent of something warm and savory. In the kitchen, Hyunwoo stood at the stove stirring, a pot with focused ease. Yoonso's voice was barely a whisper, laced with unease. "Good morning." Hyunwoo turned, smiling warmly. "Morning. Feeling any better? Did you sleep well?" Relief washed over her. His calm, friendly tone felt normal. Nothing seemed out of place. No weird tension. Maybe I didn't do anything. Embarrassing after all. Yoonso walked over, glancing at the bubbling pot. "You're amazing, Hyunwoo. Seriously. You cook? You clean? Someone needs to marry you already," he chuckled, shaking his head. "Hard to do when you're single." Yoonseo laughed softly, but suddenly the world began to spin again. Her breath hitched as flashes from last night flickered in her mind. Blurry, scattered memories, Hyunwoo carrying her on his back, smiling, heroic. The ideal man. She sighed dreamily. He must have carried me home. So kind, so reliable. Her fantasy popped like a soap bubble when Hyunwoo casually said, "Hey, can you wake up Jungwoo? Breakfast is almost ready." Yoonseo froze. "Jungwoo? Me? Sure." The last thing she wanted was to face him after a blackout, but under pressure she nodded reluctantly. As she approached the guest room door, dread coiled in her stomach. Not from the hangover, but the memory of Jungwoo's sharp gaze and sharp tongue. She raised her hand to knock. Slam. The door flew open. Startled, Yoonseo lost her balance and tumbled to the floor with a yelp. Blinking up, she froze. Jungwoo stood over her in just sweatpants, his toned upper body on full display. Her face turned crimson. "I wasn't peeking. Hyunwoo sent me. Breakfast, it's ready." Her words came out in a rushed jumble. Jungwoo chuckled and offered his hand. "You okay? Didn't hit anything, did you? Be more careful." His gentle tone only made her more flustered. She took his hand and got to her feet, her eyes darting away. Later, after breakfast, Yoonseo gathered the dishes. "I'll take care of these," she offered, trying to busy herself and avoid eye contact. As she rinsed plates, she glanced over her shoulder. "Why are you still here anyway?" Jungwoo leaned against the counter. "Because I live here?" He smirked. "And you're not the housekeeper, by the way." Yoonseo's face heated up again. She had meant to nag him, but now she just felt awkward. Then Jungwoo's voice softened. "By the way, stop calling me director. When we're home, just call me Jungwoo." Her eyes widened. Why is he suddenly being so normal? She glanced at him, confused. Jungwoo caught her stare. "What's with that look?" he teased. "Is your stomach acting up again?" Yoonseo blinked. "What? No, I'm just..." She paused. "Why are you being nice all of a sudden?" He raised an eyebrow. "Isn't this what you wanted? You said I always pick fights and rely on my looks to get away with things." She stared blankly. "I said..." "What? You don't remember?" He smirked. "Drunk words are honest words, Yoonseo." Her mind went blank. She didn't remember saying anything like that. Her heart pounded in panic. Flashback. Last night. The night air was chilly as Jungwoo trudged up the stairs. Yoonseo slung over his back like a sack of rice. "These stairs are the worst." She mumbled into his shoulder, giggling. "Hyunwoo, you're the best. Carry me faster." Jungwoo gritted his teeth. "I'm not Hyunwoo," he muttered. "Seriously, I carry you all the way here and you can't even get my name right." Finally reached the apartment, dropping her onto the bed with a sigh. His back ached, and he ran a hand through his hair, exhausted. "You should at least wash up before sleeping," he muttered. As he turned to leave, Yoonseo's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. She tugged him back and suddenly pulled him onto the bed, right into her lap. "What the..." Jungwoo stared at her, stunned. In a soft, sleepy voice, she murmured, "You nag too much. What do I have to do to shut your mouth?" Yoonseo was sitting on Jungwoo's lap, her finger gently pressed against his lips, their faces mere inches apart. With a teasing glint in her eye, she asked him if there was any way to block that mouth of his. Jungwoo smiled, amused, and asked. Her in return how she planned to do that. She leaned in closer, suddenly squeezed his lips shut with both hands, and shouted, "You're so annoying!" Jungwoo blinked in surprise. He clearly hadn't expected that. Still holding his face, Yoonseo's tone softened as she sighed. What a waste of such a pretty face. If only it weren't for this mouth, you'd be the perfect man. With that, she slipped off his lap and collapsed onto the bed. Jungwoo reached over and poked her forehead, chuckling lightly. "Go to sleep, will you? Don't wake up tomorrow." With even more regrets. Suddenly, Yoonseo snapped back to reality, eyes wide, heart pounding. The memory from last night hit her like a train. Standing in front of Jungwoo now, she stammered, "Woo, was it you? Who carried me home?" Jungwoo nodded with a calm expression. "Yeah, I had to carry you through 5 subway stations." He sighed, half laughing. "I tried calling a taxi, but someone kept trying to throw up. It was a mess." Yoonseo groaned, holding her head in both hands. Unable to believe what she was hearing, Jungwoo raised an eyebrow, looking at her with mild amusement. "Is it too much to ask for a bit of kindness, after everything I did for you last night?" Her eyes welled up with tears, her face burning with embarrassment. "Yes," she muttered, barely audible, then thought to herself, "I'm completely screwed." Later that morning, Yoonseo arrived at the office and was immediately greeted by her concerned colleagues. Seeing her safe and sound, they expressed relief. "We're glad the director took good care of you," one of them said kindly. Yoonseo blushed and nodded, trying to stay composed. "Was I a nuisance yesterday?" Manager Lee opened her mouth, ready to deliver the harsh truth. But Ji-young quickly covered her lips and intervened. "Don't worry about it, Yoonseo. Stuff like that happens. No big deal." Her words were meant to comfort, but Yoonseo still felt uneasy, the discomfort from last night lingering in her chest. Just then, a familiar voice greeted the office. She turned and saw Hyunwoo and Jungwoo entering together, both seemingly unbothered despite the heavy drinking the night before. "You guys held up well," Hyunwoo said cheerfully. Yoonseo smiled and greeted them. "Did you get home safe?" Hyunwoo asked. "I did, thank you," Yoonseo replied, then turned to Jungwoo with sincere eyes. "Thank you. For yesterday." Jungwoo didn't even glance at her. Eyes glued to the papers in his hands, he walked past her in silence. A short while later, Yoonseo found herself venting to Hyunwoo. "Your brother? What's his problem?" "He completely ignored me this morning." Hyunwoo shrugged casually. "He's always like that. Probably wasn't ignoring you on purpose, he's just cold." His nonchalant answer only irritated Yoonseo more. "Well, I didn't ask him to take me home, you know." That caught Hyunwoo off guard. "Wait, you don't remember last night?" Yoonseo blinked, puzzled. "Remember what?" Flashback. Last night, Yoonseo, drunk and unsteady, sat beside Jungwoo and pleaded, "Let's go home." Jungwoo, startled, asked, "Why would I go home with you?" In her drunken haze, she nearly blurted out that they lived together, but Jungwoo quickly stopped her, and Hyunwoo jumped in to cover. "They live in the same neighborhood," Hyunwoo told the others. Jungwoo agreed to take her home, and Eunseyo, thrilled, clung to his arm as they left together. Back to present, snapping back to reality, Eunseyo's mind reeled. The memories were slowly fitting together like puzzle pieces. He only helped me, and I gave him such a hard time. Her face flushed with shame. Determined to salvage at least a shred of dignity, she decided to apologize. Standing in front of Jungwoo's office, Yoonseo took a deep breath and knocked. No response. The room seemed empty. She cautiously stepped inside, placed a small gift and a handwritten note on his desk, and was about to leave when voices echoed from the hallway. Jungwoo and the team leader were coming. Her heart sank. "I'm doomed." Panicking, she ducked under Jungwoo's desk, holding her breath. Moments later, Jungwoo entered, unaware of her presence. He sat down, flipping through papers. Outside the office, the team leader called his name. Yoonseo, startled by the sudden sound, gasped, and pop! A button from her shirt flew off. Jungwoo froze, his senses alert. Something was definitely not right. As he continued talking to the team leader, he glanced down and saw Yoonseo hiding under his desk, Yoonso sat under Jungwoo's desk, looking up at him with worry. Jungwoo, surprised to see her there, whispered, "What are you doing here?" Before she could answer, his team leader interrupted, asking about the documents he had requested. Blushing, Yoonseo listened to their conversation, her anxiety growing. If the team leader discovered her hiding under Jungwoo's desk, the situation would become incredibly complicated. Suddenly, Jungwoo felt a soft touch on his knee. He glanced down and saw Yoonseo pleading with her eyes, silently begging for his help. Annoyed, Jungwoo sighed but reluctantly agreed to play along. The team leader sensed something was off, but assumed Jungwoo was just overwhelmed by the responsibilities he had taken on since joining. Trying to stay composed, Jungwoo found the documents and handed them over, making Yoonseo sigh in relief. However, as the team leader reviewed the papers, he pointed out a few issues that needed to be discussed. Jungwoo, already irritated, wasn't in the mood for a long conversation, but was persuaded when the team leader assured him it wouldn't take much time. He reluctantly agreed, insisting on a quick resolution. Meanwhile, Yoonseo remained under the desk, replaying the situation, in her mind, wondering how things had escalated so far. Anxiety built up inside her as the conversation continued. She couldn't understand how Jungwoo remained so calm while she was struggling just to stretch her legs. Just then, her stomach growled. Jungwoo stiffened, and the team leader immediately asked if he was feeling unwell. Jungwoo quickly dismissed it, but beneath the desk, Yoonseo sat frozen, now squeezed between his legs. When Jungwoo glanced down at her again, there was clear irritation in his eyes. The team leader, still unconvinced, hesitated before finally dropping the subject. After some time, the team leader thanked Jungwoo for his help, mentioning that he had really saved him. Jungwoo only nodded and said he needed to make an urgent call. As soon as the team leader left, Jungwoo leaned back in his chair, his patience completely worn out. He slammed his hand on the desk and called for Unseo. Yoonseo, still under the eye. Table quickly tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding, but Jungwoo cut her off instantly. "How exactly do you explain sneaking under your boss's desk?" he asked coldly. With a weak voice, Yoonseo muttered, "I really had a reason." Jungwoo wasn't interested in hearing it. Annoyed, he simply ordered her to get out. From the slipper incident to letting her stay at his place, he thought he had been considerate enough. And yet, she still managed to create another ridiculous situation. Even if Hyunwoo was her friend, there had to be limits. Still sitting under the desk, Yoonseo said nothing, realizing just how much had happened and how upside down her life had become. Jungwoo, mistaking her silence for defiance, narrowed his eyes. "Are you protesting now?" Instead of answering, Yoonseo hesitantly tugged on the fabric of his pants and whispered, "I was under here for too long. My legs are numb. Can you help me out?" Jungwoo was speechless. Laughter echoed through the room as Yoonseo recounted the story to Hyunwoo. He laughed even harder when he heard how his normally composed brother had lost his patience. "You actually managed to get under his skin." "Even I couldn't do that," Yoonseo sighed, unable to be mad. Jungwoo had been right after all. There was no point in arguing back. But after everything that had happened in the past few days, she felt so embarrassed that she seriously considered quitting her job and leaving the city. Sensing her distress, Hyunwoo reached out to comfort her, but then he paused, realizing that she actually had a solid reason to leave. Even so, he tried to ease her worries, sitting her down in front of him. "Here," he said, pulling out a relief patch. "For your neck pain." Yoonseo was skeptical but eventually agreed. She moved her hair aside and loosened her shirt slightly to expose the back of her neck. Hyunwoo hesitated, seeing her this made him unexpectedly flustered and his cheeks turned red. "Hyunwoo!" Yoonseo called, pulling him from his thoughts. Quickly shaking it off, he applied the patch to her skin. Then with a teasing smirk, he said, "You know, I still haven't gotten paid for my services." Yoonseo immediately glared at him. "I never asked for a patch. This was your idea." Back at the office, Jungwoo sat at his desk, his eyes landing on a small note and a box of cookies. He picked up the note and read it, realizing that Yoonseo had left it as an apology for the drunken night out. Holding the box of chocolates in his hands, he let out a small, amused smile. "Hun Yoonseo, you really are a strange one. At the office, Yunseo sat at her desk, fingers tapping absent-mindedly. A deep sigh left her lips. How long had it been since she last felt this sense of calm at work? Yet, despite the quiet, her mind was anything but peaceful. Her thoughts swirled. Around the last 2 days, so much had happened in such a short time, and she was still struggling to process it all. Yunseo? The director is asking for you in his office? Her body tensed instantly. Of course, just when she thought she could avoid him today. She forced herself to stand, inhaling slowly to mask her irritation. Her footsteps felt heavier than usual as she made her way to his office. The moment she stepped inside, her heart skipped a beat. I want you to come with me to Jeju Island, he said, his tone neutral, yet laced with something she couldn't quite place. Yunseo blinked, her mind scrambling to catch up. Excuse me? She managed to say, her voice sharper than intended. Jungwoo turned slightly, his gaze locking onto hers. The development team was supposed to attend the game fair, but they can't. It's an important event, and I need someone reliable. His eyes didn't waver. That's you. You wanted to get on better terms with me, didn't you? Breath caught in her throat. So he hadn't forgotten about that. She clenched her fists at her sides, feeling cornered. Then came the final blow. Are you free this weekend? A mix of frustration and resignation washed over her. Fine, I'll go. That evening, Yunseo sat across from Hyunwoo at a bar, her drink half finished. Her annoyance hadn't faded. This is insane. He's completely abusing his power as my boss, she blurted, her voice rising. Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow, clearly entertained. You're talking too fast, slow down. What exactly did he say? Yunseo groaned, gripping her glass tighter. He wants me to go with him to Jeju for a work event. 3 nights, 4 days, over my holiday. Hyunwoo let out a low whistle. Damn. And why you? She hesitated. That question had been nagging at her too. Her mind flashed back to their conversation. The way Jungwoo had smirked, the way he had thrown her own words back at her. He wanted her to prove herself. That much was clear. I don't know, she muttered, feeling oddly unsettled. But I don't have a choice. Hyunwoo frowned. Wait, you're going alone with him? Yunseo gave a slow nod. His eyes narrowed. And you just agreed? She scoffed, rubbing her temple. Do I look like I had an option? A mischievous grin spread across Hyunwoo's face. Then how about we make plans together? She shot him a look. Why just us two? He shrugged, playing it cool. Just in case you need a backup plan. She rolled her eyes. But deep down, an uneasy feeling lingered. What exactly was she walking into? Yunseo stood outside a restaurant, umbrella in hand. Her fingers fidgeted with the handle as her mind raced. The trip was happening. No turning back now. Her thoughts were interrupted by an argument nearby. A couple, voices sharp, tension thick. Normally, she wouldn't have paid much attention. But then she saw who it was, Jungwoo, and he wasn't alone. Her stomach churned at the sight of him locked in a heated conversation with a woman who looked both furious and smug. Then, as if sensing her presence, Jungwoo turned, and their eyes met. Before she could process it, he was already walking toward her. She barely had time to react before he smoothly lifted the umbrella, stepping closer. His voice was lower than usual, deliberate. Have you been waiting long, babe? Her body went rigid, her mind short-circuiting. What? Was he drunk? Behind him, the woman scoffed, amusement flickering in her eyes. Babe? She repeated mockingly, before turning her gaze to Yunseo, sharp, assessing. A girl like this? She's beneath your level, Jungwoo. Yunseo's chest tightened. Anger flared in her veins, but before she could speak, Jungwoo's voice cut through the tension. Kim Jin-hee. The woman stiffened, her smirk faltering slightly. Jungwoo's eyes were colder, now. Watch what you say. This girl is the one I'm seeing right now. Yunseo and Jungwoo stood together under the umbrella, both facing Kim Jin-hee. With a firm voice, Jungwoo stated, The woman next to me is someone I'm currently seeing. Jin-hee blinked in disbelief, her lips slightly parted. Your... what? Her expression was a mix of surprise and hurt. Yunseo turned to Jungwoo, just as stunned. What is this about? What are you doing? Her voice was low but filled with confusion. Jungwoo didn't answer her directly. Instead, he looked at her with a mock-concerned gaze. "Aren't you cold? You should have worn something warmer," he said gently, leaning closer. Then, with a whisper only she could hear, he added, "Come on, help me out here. I helped you, didn't I?" Yoonso hesitated, unsure if she should play along. But before she could respond, Jin-hee scoffed loudly. "If you're going to lie, at least make it believable. Seriously, Jungwoo, her? Why would you date someone like that?" That did it. Annoyed, Yoonseo took a sharp breath and stepped closer to Jungwoo, looping her arm around his. "Oh, I see. You're one of those annoying flies that show up just to ruin the mood," she said sweetly, yet with venom behind every word. Jungwoo looked at her, surprised at how naturally she slipped into the act. Her performance was far better than he expected. "No, wonder you're always in this kind of situation," Yoonseo added with a smirk, glancing up at him. Jin-hee crossed her arms, her tone turning sharp. "Pathetic. You really haven't changed. Wasn't it just recently you invited me to dinner after returning to Korea?" Yoonseo raised an eyebrow. "Wow, you even know his schedule? That's kind of stalkerish." She turned to Jungwoo, her voice playful. "Can we go home now?" "Yeah," Jungwoo said, eyes still locked with Jin-hee's. "That's enough. I'm heading home, with my girlfriend." "You're really going to treat me like this?" Jin-hee shouted, her voice breaking slightly. "Aren't you embarrassed? To bring her home to your family?" Yoonseo didn't miss a beat. "Already met them," she said, smiling brightly. "They love me, always call me sweetheart." It wasn't a complete lie, but the context was definitely twisted. Jin-hee snapped. "She doesn't suit you like I do." Startled by the sudden outburst, Yoonseo instinctively stepped back and half hid behind Jungwoo. Without missing a beat, Jungwoo moved in front of her, his expression cold. "Judging people based on appearances, that's low. You should really give it a rest." Jin-hee, red-faced and humiliated as people around started to glance their way, cursed under her breath and turned on her heel, storming off. Jungwoo sighed, with relief. That was intense. Yoonseo took a few steps back from him, clearly still shaken. "How could you put me in that kind of situation?" Jungwoo chuckled. "You were incredible. You looked like you were enjoying it." She blushed and quickly composed herself, brushing off his comment. "Why didn't you just go along with her? She's pretty. You could have given it a shot." Jungwoo looked at her for a second, then gently held the umbrella over her head. "She's not even close to how pretty you are," he said softly. Yoonseo's cheeks turned bright red. She stared at him, unsure what to say. Then, just as suddenly, Jungwoo leaned back and waved a hand. "Forget I said that. Thanks for helping, by the way," he added. "She's been a real pain these past few days." Not far away, Hyunwoo ended a phone call, glancing toward the scene. "That took longer than expected," he muttered. Meanwhile, Jungwoo grinned, noticing Unseo still red-faced. "Wow, so calling you pretty is all it takes to fluster you like that?" Yunseo glared at him, now visibly annoyed. "You're enjoying this way too much." Later at home, Hyunwoo was pouring coffee. "Want some?" he asked Jungwoo. "Sure," Jungwoo replied. Taking the offered cup, they both sat down on the couch. Hyunwoo took a sip and asked, "Where's Yunseo now?" Jungwoo shrugged. "No idea." "So," Hyunwoo continued, "how's work been?" Jungwoo's expression cooled instantly. "Fine." Hyunwoo watched him carefully, then leaned in. "Earlier today, that scene in the street. Did Yunseo call you there?" Jungwoo shook his head. "No, total coincidence. But the timing was perfect. Ever since I got back, a lot of people have been bothering me, Jin-hee included. When I saw Yunseo, I just went with it." Hyunwoo frowned, trying to make sense of it. "Still, you were kind of harsh. Don't be like that with her. Yunseo's important to me." Jungwoo raised an eyebrow. "You're overreacting." Hyunwoo shook his head. "No, I'm not. Don't forget she's working over the holidays because of you. A business trip during her break? That's stressful as hell." Jungwoo didn't respond. He just stared at the coffee in his hands. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Maybe I pushed her too far. But if you're this worried, then maybe you're the one going too far. He turned to Hyunwoo. Tell me something. Are you two really just friends? Hyunwoo looks at Jungwoo in silence. Then, with a gentle smile, he says that they're not just friends, they're best friends. Why are you acting like you've never had a best friend before? He asks playfully. Jungwoo freezes like a statue. Hyunwoo, slightly nervous, follows up. Wait, you haven't? Jungwoo takes a sip of his drink and quietly admits, this concept of friendship, it's not exactly familiar to me. Hyunwoo is stunned by the confession. You're acting weird again, he mutters. Who goes on a trip alone with their boss? Annoyed, Jungwoo hands him a paper. You're misunderstanding things again. Hyunwoo glances at the paper and sees it's a business trip plan. Jungwoo explains that even though it falls during the holiday season, employees will be given substitute holidays. With a slight smirk, he admits he left out some details, just to mess with Yoonseo a bit. But there's nothing to worry about, he adds. The schedule's so relaxed, it's practically a vacation. It's meant to boost employee morale, that's all. Hyunwoo finally relaxes, feeling a bit silly for overreacting. Jungwoo apologizes for not explaining it properly, but Hyunwoo waves him off. No, I should be the one apologizing for jumping to conclusions. The next morning, the table is covered in various dishes. Hyunwoo's eyes widen. Is today some kind of special occasion? Yoonseo shakes her head. I just went to bed early and woke up early, so I made something nice. Hyunwoo raises a brow. You didn't have to go this far. Something simple would have been fine. Yoonseo smiles softly. Just eat before it gets cold. Hyunwoo takes a bite, and his eyes light up. Wait, this is amazing. He shifts into reporter mode, asking her about her cooking secrets. Just then, Jungwoo walks in. Looks like you two are having fun early in the morning. He notices the food. Did you make breakfast? Yoonseo nods, but seems unsure. I wasn't sure it would suit your taste. Jungwoo tries a bite. She watches him nervously. It's good, he says plainly. Her face brightens instantly, and Jungwoo notices. For a brief moment, he's caught off guard, but quickly returns to his usual self. Eat quickly if you don't want to be late. The three of them sit together, eating and chatting about the food. Hyunwoo, grateful, offers Yoonseo a ride to work. She thanks him but politely declines. If someone from the office sees us, it'll just start rumors. Then Jungwoo chimes in. Yoonseo's coming with me today. Both Yoonseo and Hyunwoo are surprised. Why would I go with you? She asks. Jungwoo responds calmly. We need to discuss the business trip. I don't have time at the office for that. Hyunwoo tries to object, but Yoonseo stops him. Thank you, but I want to handle this myself. She nods. Besides, discussing it on the way actually sounds better. Jungwoo takes that as a yes. Hyunwoo still tries to join in, but Jungwoo reminds him of his external meeting today. You even know my schedule now? Hyunwoo jokes. Yoonseo teases. Why would you come with us anyway? I just thought you might feel uncomfortable, he admits. But Yoonseo reassures him with a smile. We see each other every day. No need to worry. Now sitting in Jungwoo's car, Yoonseo starts to feel uneasy. He had said they'd talk about the business trip on the way, but hasn't said a single word since breakfast. She glances at him. Didn't you say we were going to discuss the trip? Jungwoo glances at her amused. You actually believe that? He smirks. It was just an excuse. Relax. There's nothing to talk about. Then why are we going together? She asks, a bit confused. He smirks again. Who knows? What if I just wanted to be with you? Is that not allowed?